So these birds are dependent upon wetlands, and when I say wetlands, freshwater and our coastal wetlands too, the marshes and the beaches as well. But they are, there's a group of them. There are about 40 or so in the U.S., about 23 species roughly that we're going to be talking about that nest up in the Arctic and fly long distances through this part of the country and other parts of the country. But we have us, everybody, this our development of the country, agriculture, all the different land uses we do has eliminated about 50% of wetlands. Not only in this country, but worldwide. And so this is a worldwide decline. The birds are tightly associated with the wetlands that we have been changing and destroying in many ways. Right. And so that's what Manomet's work is doing, is trying to maintain the various species of these wetland-dependent birds. And just from the gee whiz factor, we are working with birds that we are based on the technologies we're using now. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the devices we're using to actually follow these birds, but we're finding out a lot more, and we're fine-tuning our understanding of what they need throughout the year and where they need it. And we can bring it right back at the end of the show, talk about Manomet and the Cape Cod area and what that means for some of these migrants. So why don't you want to start? We'll start with some slides. We'll talk about what we did this summer.
Sure, Jimmy, when Jim, Brad will call for the shots, Jim, and you can let him put them up.
That'd be great.
Okay.
If we just start with the first slide, it shows. There we go. On the right hand part of the screen, you'll see the Coates Island camp. Little island. It looks little on the map up there, but the island's about 80 miles long and about 40 miles wide. And I spent about 3 weeks up there this summer. And Ian, if you look at the other red dot on the map, way over there in the mouth of the Canning River, up as far as north as you can go in Alaska, on the north slope of Alaska, right on the Arctic Ocean, is where Ian spent 6 weeks or so?
Yep.
About six weeks from early June to mid-July. He just got back on a camp there. So we'll talk about those camps a little bit individually,
sure,
and then we'll talk about the work because we were doing similar work as part of a Manomet project, a very large Manomet project to study shorebirds across the Arctic. So
very good.
Let's go to the next slide. Would be great. And this is the camp where I was. This is on the Coates Island, and just roughly, we work with the Canadian Wildlife Service. They flew us in there, actually. Really good partners for many different programs we do. And we found that the cabin that was built in 2004, the little building on the left up there that looks a little bit like a chicken coop. It was a little bit larger than a chicken coop, but it was pure luxury for us because we're used to living and working out of tents, and so to have
Isn't that what that yellow thing is there? A tent?
No, the tent's right. The yellow thing and the white thing too up there, just right next to behind the cabin. Yep.
I was going to have fun with you and say I like your hotel accommodations, but you went there first. So
believe me, it was luxury, and people give me a hard time for saying the word luxury when you're talking about something that literally
it's a beautiful scene.
It's a beautiful scene. We were right on a river. And this photo was taken not long after we got there, and the snow you can see is drifted, and but the river has broken up, and we were there while most of the snow was melting. We were there with some nice sunny days, and had the river increase in volume while we were there. Yeah, a spectacular place. The island, it's started to say, is 80 miles long, and it's about 40 miles wide. So if you picture Massachusetts, and you picture from Worcester to the New York line,
right?
That's about 75 miles, and then Massachusetts is about 50 miles from top to bottom, border to border. This is about 40 miles, the island we were on, And there were 4 people on the whole island, and it was just us for that size area. So we were in a wilderness situation that was just really spectacular.
You didn't have any power then, if there's only 4 of you there, right?
We had, as far as electricity,
Yeah.
we actually had we had a little generator. So we did it. We were able to run computers and do our do the data entry and all of that, and actually download photographs as well.
Very good.
Why don't we go to the next photo? That's the crew we were working with. There's the 4 of us. Stephen Brown's the director of shorebird science at Manomet. His wife Meta, and then a really good field assistant, Sage Dunn, and then I'm over there with the goofy hat on the left. But that's our cabin and home sweet home hotel, Marriott Hotel for us up there. Let's talk. You want to talk about your camp a little bit? I think if you go to the next slide, we'll. There you go. There's a Canyon River camp way up in northern Alaska.
Wow, that's a beautiful picture.
So that's where I lived for the past 6 weeks, and we didn't have anything nearly as luxurious as walls or a chicken coop or anything. Where we were, we had to fly in, and you actually land in early June on a frozen lake. There is no airstrip or anything. It's a complete snowy world up there.
Wow.
You land on the ice, and you have to carry all your gear about half a mile to where you're going to camp in sleds. And then you set up the little compounds that you can see up there. All the yellow tents on the left are where we slept. And on the right, you can see a kind of grayish tent and a yellow tent, and that's where we cooked and ate, and where we did data entry, and were able to have some solar power in the yellow tent as well. So we were also able to recharge things and download photos.
Great.
You want to talk about the strategic placement of the 2 groups of tents too, and why they would be so far apart?
Yeah, so if you notice, you can't really see in this photo, I don't think, but there's very slight fencing around each one of the camps, and that is to keep out bears, mainly grizzly bears. And it's electrified fencing that it might not look like much. It's basically 2 thin wires just held up by little pieces of wood. It looks like almost nothing. But bears investigate things by sniffing. So they're walking along, kind of snuffling around, and they notice something foreign. If they go up and sniff it, and it's electrified, well, they're going to turn tail and run pretty fast.
Wow.
So the tents on the right up there were the cook tents, and all the food was stored there. And so you don't want to have the food near where people are sleeping if a bear comes around, and
okay.
They're very good smelling. And we lock all the food up in both camps at night. But we separate the sleeping area from where the food area is in case a bear gets in there. So
Just in case.
just in case, yeah. We haven't had any problems, but it's just a precaution.
Grizzly bears, huh?
Grizzly bears, yeah, bear and ground grizzlies.
Wow.
We had well, we've got a bear photo at the end. We don't want to give it away,
No.
but yeah, okay.
That's another beautiful photograph.
That's another one. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about how remote, and this is a picture of Hudson Bay, flying over Hudson Bay, and this is actually toward the end of June, and it's there's a lot of sea ice up there. It's an incredible landscape, and we flew for about 3 hours just across the north part of it from Baffin Island over to Coates Island.
That much ice, the end of June.
Correct. Yep, and that's a breakup right there in the Hudson Strait, and all of that ice will be breaking up fairly rapidly with the heat from the sun and moving out into North Atlantic actually. So.
Wow.
Okay, go. Next slide's good. Yeah, I just want to give another landscape idea here with this photograph, and you can see 2 figures way in the distance, a little bit to the left of center, and those are 2 of our co-workers up there. And this is an Arctic wetland. You can see there are no trees. The sun, where I was, set briefly. I was just under the Arctic Circle, so the sun set briefly, but it never got dark, and then came back up again about 2 hours later. Where Ian was, the sun never set, so it just spins around. He's close enough to the North Pole, so within the Arctic Circle, so the sun never goes down. And
Pulled a lot of all-nighters, huh?
it's very tempting, and we'll get to that with some of the photos for sure, yeah. But the work we're doing up there, we'll get to it in a minute, but we're the tallest trees there are some little willows that are about a few inches off the ground.
In that marsh?
This is looking across tundra. This is everywhere.
That's tundra,
That's wetland tundra. Yep.
Wow.
And everywhere you go, that's what the landscape with some variation looks like.
I don't think people at home could see the gauge you were using. How many inches tall did you say
sorry,
they were?
it was just the willows just come up where there's some shelter. They're able to come up just a few inches off the ground.
Inches.
Yeah. So in some of the rivers, they become larger. They're larger woody. Those are the woody woody vegetation up there. So. Two things when we get back. The trees suddenly become outstanding and a little intimidating when you have forests around coming back to New England.
Yes.
And then night, because we don't see darkness. So you come back and all of a sudden
It's dark.
it's dark.
Yeah.
Two things you don't think much about.
Right.
But
Must be tough to get your body clock back in.
it takes some time usually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
jet lag and time.
Wow.
So anyway, that's kind of the landscape we work in, both in Alaska and in northern Canada. And you can go ahead. Be great. This is down on the coast. This is Hudson Bay, right on the coast. Really nice
That's a
day.
beautiful picture too.
Shallow water. The tide was coming in just as it does here. And we were actually looking for some shorebird food there on the coast. But you can see the ice pack is still just offshore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. So we want to talk about migration a little bit, and we want to get to the shorebird migration certainly, but there are a lot of things that migrate, and people are very familiar with caribou.
Yes.
I know about them, and caribou in very large numbers, particularly in northern Alaska, come out toward the coast where our camp is, and Ian had last year and this year at the Canyon River Camp some great encounters with large numbers of caribou.
It was pretty spectacular. Last year we were lucky enough to see roughly 30,000 caribou come through in our time
No
there.
kidding.
And you'd have herds coming through 6,000, 8,000, just complete. It was amazing. You looked out and the ground was just nothing but caribou. We like to joke about it. It's like the American Serengeti. It's almost like you're in
very
Africa.
much, yeah.
Right.
And this year we actually had about 40,000 caribou. So we had even more than last year.
Are
And
they as inquisitive as the grizzly bear?
They almost don't care about you. It's pretty amazing. If you walk towards them, they'll kind of move away. But if you're standing still or laying down, they'll actually move towards you. And you can have a herd of like 10,000 animals come and part around you like water around a rock in a river.
No kidding.
And they'll just be 10, 20 feet away, and they
That
just
must be
don't
fascinating.
For a
Amazing.
photographer, it's a mind-blowing
heaven.
experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Really
good.
great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was
No, so we just
Not at
wanted to
all.
talk about rhythms of migration up there, and the winters, as you can imagine, are quite severe. So there are just a few species that will overwinter way up on the North Slope and in northern Canada as well, eastern Arctic. So we can go on and show you a couple of other. We're getting into some of the birds that migrate up there.
beautiful bird.
Yeah, Ian took that photo, and that's a Pacific loon. They're certainly across the Arctic landscape, and you can see the water droplets as the bird's moving through. I guess it must have been windy that day.
Yeah, it was moving into waves, and they were kind of breaking across the front of the bird as it was swimming in the edge of this lake.
So just spectacular birds and colors, and we're exposed to some really neat things up there. So that's a migrant.
Are you using a regular camera with this, or a special camera? Or?
So it's just it's an SLR. It's called a single lens
Single
reflex.
lens.
So yeah, it's just
I've
one of
got
the.
one. That's
Okay.
why I asked
It's a
you.
digital, yeah,
I
for
have
sure.
No
a
kidding.
Canon digital SLR. And
Great
then
work.
Thank you.
Great work.
And then the lenses are important too.
Yes.
Yeah, telephoto lenses. So 300 or 400 millimeter lenses.
Sorry to interrupt you again. It's just
Not at all. No,
the,
good.
The picture is absolutely beautiful.
These are good.
It is.
And at some point, I guess our caller's going to be calling in at some point.
I'm
We're just
hoping
rolling.
that somebody gets away from the TV set and calls up 508-830-3971. If you have any questions for these two gentlemen, they'd be more than happy to answer them for you. 508-830-3971. I know you're out there watching. Call in.
We can do that now. We can keep going through the slides until
Sure.
somebody calls. Sure. So another migrant that comes into Arctic areas. This is another Ian photo. This is one of my favorite birds. Is a male king eider, and they are there escorting females who are building nests. The males don't contribute anything to actually nest building or incubation or actually rearing young. But while she's there and building and laying eggs, the males follow them around, and we have chances to interact with them. And what was this story with this particular photo?
One of the amazing things about the birds up there in general is that they tend to be really tame. They don't have as much fear of people as birds around here do. So if you go and you just kind of lay down for a while, they'll often forget you're there, similar to the caribou. And so this was one of two beautiful male king eider that were on this small pond. I just laid down right on the edge and just waited for a while, and eventually they swam over.
What a beautiful bird.
And were basically right in front of me.
Wow, I can see why you get that camera. I mean, that's beautiful. That's really great.
And the lighting too. The thing about it, the sun that doesn't set is that while we do the research during the day, we frequently don't have nice evenings. First of all, the wind, storms, heavy clouds are very frequent. But some nights when the sun is actually out, it's very hard for those with cameras to actually go to sleep. So you work all day, recording data, and we'll get into some of the data here in a minute. But and then the sun gets low, the wind quiets down at night, and you get birds that look like this in front of you. It's very hard to go to bed. So we
it's
work.
a form of relaxation, I'm sure.
Exactly. It's as good as sleep, right? I mean, who needs sleep?
Right, exactly. Yeah. What the heck? You can't go to the local bar room and have a beer.
That's right. Why not? Yeah, that's true. None of that.
I keep going off into space.
No,
someplace.
we're enjoying it. We're enjoying it.
And so this photo, the photo of the king eider, believe it or not, that's taken at close to midnight.
Really?
It's totally a foreign concept because, of course, it's dark around midnight, right?
Yes.
But instead, you get this beautiful kind of soft, warm light that you'll see around here close to sunset. And you'll kind of get that for 8 or 10 hours a day. So, like Brad was saying, you just don't want to go to bed because it's perfect.
It is perfect. It's beautiful. It really is.
And those rare nights when wind is not blowing, because it tends to howl up there most of the time. So yeah. Anyway, go on. Well, so we'll start talking about what we're here to talk about. And these are shorebirds. This is a really neat one. This is one called a Phalarope. This is a red Phalarope. Their bills, these shorebirds, are built for feeding on mostly insect larvae. In this case, this bird spends most of the winter out in the open ocean, which is unusual for shorebirds.
Right.
But they're all drawn back into these wetlands we've been talking about, and in the Arctic landscape, there tends to be a lot of wetland habitat. And this is a female red Phalarope, and she uses that bill to catch insect larvae out of the water up there in the little ponds.
Now, how far inland would you see this type of a shorebird? Have you ever seen one further in?
It depends, and we'll get to that in just a second.
Okay,
actually,
right.
no, you're good.
I didn't mean to get ahead of
queuing
you.
it up. No, you're queuing up a future slide.
Sorry, it wasn't planned.
You went right to our map in your head, didn't you?
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's fine. So shorebirds, they're called shorebirds. It's a little bit confusing, but they're small. They're little guys. They're the sandpipers and the plovers you see on the beach normally. But let's go to the next slide, and then this is a really neat one. We just saw some today, actually, out on the beach of Cape Cod. This is called a Blackbellied Plover, and they are both nesting in Arctic Alaska and over in Canada, and they come through here on migration. But this is a male, and just to give you a variety of what we're seeing up there, and this is one of my favorite birds of all time. With it, you don't get a lot of birds with that kind of inky jet black and with a white back, and
it almost looks like a black and white photograph.
Yeah, right, in that rocky landscape right in the edge of a river. Your viewers could go out tomorrow to the beaches here in Massachusetts and New England and see birds that have just come down from the Arctic that look just like this, in this plumage. We saw several today, and they're looking this good right now. They'll lose it.
In Plymouth?
This species of bird is here now. They're just starting, the birds that have nested or attempted to nest in the Arctic areas where you saw our camps.
Right.
These guys now, this is from Coates Island. This photograph is from Coates Island. These birds, if they have failed to nest, are already coming south, and your viewers can go, if they're going to the beach, they can see this species of plover now here as they're coming down out of the Arctic. So it's a really neat thing to look for when you're out in some of the outer beaches.
Is this an endangered species?
It is not. No, this is not an endangered bird. They are protected. Shorebirds are protected.
Yes, they are.
But this particular one is not an endangered species, no. But anyway, go next slide would be great. Okay, here we go. This is the slide you queued up.
The map, yeah.
This is the map. This is a different map, and we wanted to talk about two different species that have two different migratory patterns. And your viewers hopefully can see the black lines coming through the center part of the country. There's some, those are north and south
those are going
lines.
On the left side, yeah.
Correct. And then the lighter red lines is a different bird that is called the red lines are with the semi-palmated sandpiper migration route, roughly, and the black lines belong to a bird called the buff-breasted sandpiper. And we're going to talk, I think maybe the next slide. So the red lines are going to the northern part of South America.
Okay.
And if you look carefully, the black lines actually lead. There's one way down there in South America.
Yeah, down there.
That leads way down into the grasslands of Uruguay and Argentina, and I guess a little bit of southern Brazil, way down south in South America. So you're talking about inland. You were asking if some birds go inland a little bit.